This one is very laser sharp, intense to dissect the whole Hotep thing for 2 hours
Yeah, I
straight.
mean, we're not even Fed post this episode. We're Ho Talk.
TepPost.
Or TepPost. Yeah, that's what I'm literally going to name this episode. It's going to be TepPost.
The TepPost.
I'm actually going to change the name of the show to just that because I think we're going to stick to this.
Me and Slav were the resident Yakubians.
Yeah, I was thinking calling it that or calling it We Was Kings. 'Cause every time I think about it, I think of what you said. Oh,
Yo, that ass.
That's on the WUZ.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm so fucking weak. It's crazy because like when I was in high school, like that was the main form of like wokeness for like black people, like that Hotep shit. Like we used to be kings, like in Egypt, we was kings, and like nigga, I don't have no DNA from Egypt.
That's what. Yeah.
Get that? Like,
Was it this like Pimp C talking about like the reason why we like shiny shit is because we're from Egypt and like we was kings. Like he said that like verbatim. On like a Drake sketch or whatever, like. I was like, damn.
I'm sorry, man. Like the thing about this, it's like, this shit is just irrationally funny to me. I just can't get over how fucking funny it is. Like, it won't stop being funny to me. Like, so I'm at Slaboid T.
All right, this is Shit Spouter 37.
This is black.com pills.
This is the Fed Post.
It is like the best example of just like taking woke shit and just being like, no, like this is just Mad Libs of shit that literal Nazis say. This is literally fucking Third Reich shit. And it's fucking bizarre, but God, it's so fucking funny, man. And honestly, I think that I don't know. I can't even.
The white Hotep shit is the shit that really just like that shit is really spreading, yo. I think COH. Did you start that? I don't know what started that, but that shit is everywhere.
I feel like me and the posting minutes were just kind of pumping it up a little bit. Just kind of going back and forth and egging it on, and next thing you know, it's like, yeah,
He built the
we got
movement.
some actual white Hoteps up in here. It was like post Nick Cannon speech,
It's
like really in the height of the Hotep, like on Twitter.
Yeah, the posts were flying fast that night. The posts were flying fast.
It's what Farrakhan dreamed of. It's what he envisioned.
It is.
A legion
Well,
of
it's truly the furthest, the most absurd aberration of the Hotepery. Because I was trying to think of it. I was like, obviously this shit's funny. Like white Hotep shit's. I'm having a blast with it, right? It's spreading like wildfire, so that's fun. But then I was thinking, like, I'm a materialist. I want to think about this from a materialist lens. What's going on here? Why is it so funny, right? And then I started thinking, and I was like, well, I mean, like Slav was saying, the original reactionary black nationalist movement, as any white nationalist movement or anything is as well, is on its face absurd, even though it's speaking to very real material conditions.
Right.
Answer them in a really absurd way. So I'm thinking, okay, like, this is so absurd.
I fucking love it so much.
It's like, next thing you know, it's like the combination of both the absurdity of black nationalism and the wokeness of like super far like rad liberty, right? So it's like that self-flagellation shit that was going on up in
the
like
white
the
guys
Chaz.
whipping themselves.
Yeah, with the white guys whipping themselves. So I thought, this is taking it one step further. This is us, basically saying we are in fact Yakubian, right? We are in fact these devil creatures, and the 6,000 years is up, buddy. We need to realize it, and we're taking a step back, And so at the same time as it's the ultimate act of self-sacrifice, it's also just kind of showing on a large scale the absurdity of the Hotep movement at its face value.
Yeah, I first heard of it out here in Brooklyn where like just people here joking about the Yakub shit, and I was just like, what's that? And they were just like dying laughing, explaining it like. But I didn't really. Yeah, it's funny how it's like a mix of woke shit and problematic shit, because it's clearly like the flip side of the white nationalists, like mythologizing shit. It's clearly like the flip side of that coin, but it's also a woke thing, like Chef was saying. So it's like it's weird that it occupies like both those spaces. It's fucking it's hilarious. It's hilarious, but it's
because it has enough because it has enough overlap with just, I mean, because it's focusing on a lot of aspects of Black culture and everything,
Right.
and so we are just kind of poised. We are poised to not be skeptical of that, and so there's enough overlap with, you know, morally accepted cultural narratives and everything that, like,
Right.
no, and it is such like a flimsy, you know, it is such a woke slave morality to not go full Hobbes there, but like it is so petty and shallow that it's just a perfect storm. It's a perfect storm of like the petty morality of just being like, oh no, literally, like if you just take Werner von Braun and put blackface on him, he's okay now. It's
like,
insane.
it's like the same. I feel like it's the same sentiment that Black people feel when they're like, "Oh, Black-owned businesses and shit like that."
Right.
Like, it's like they just want to. Well, not. It's like it's easy to fall into like a reactionary mind frame, like when you're like you feel like you're the most oppressed or whatever. Like if they just like a lot of people just want to be right. Like people just want to be masters. They don't want equality. Like a lot of people. Yeah, especially with the like Hotep shit. It's
Right.
The idea of like Black-owned plantations and shit like that. Like,
Right.
that's pretty much the same shit. Like,
Yeah, it's like when you posted that shit, like that BP gas station that became like Black owned, and mad people were celebrating it, and you were just like, "Yo, do you guys know what the fuck is going on? Like, do you know how this shit works?" Like, I was just like,
they're fucking idiots. Like, it's crazy. Like, and I mean, I was also thinking like with that, like people celebrate like capitalist like ventures when they're not like, you know, white cis males or whatever.
Yeah.
That made me think like most like how you had that poll. It was like what has the most numbers, the populist right or the populist left or whatever. I would definitely say the populist right, because like even people like think that like Black people can't be right wingers. Like a lot of Black people are right wingers on every issue except for the Black shit.
For real. That's what's so funny. Is like, yeah, that's why that woke problematic overlap is funny, because among some woke communities, like Hotep shit is problematic. Like if you were a Black woman, or if you're like for Black trans issues, like the Hoteps are the toxic masculinity end of that. Or even like what happened like after Floyd, where Floyd, like after he died, like there was like I was seeing the conversation shift to like and from like, oh, Black men are being killed by the police to like, oh, Black men are actually problematic, like the no name shit basically, where it's like, oh, Black men are actually the ones doing, they're the oppressor. Yeah, they're the transphobic. They're hurting Black women. Like,
wait, no name did that?
She was on that way.
That was like that whole Black Trans Lives Matters. Like, when it shifted to that.
Like, I just remember
she was having that debate.
Okay, I just remember like the clip of like Boots Riley talking to her and like just totally fucking fumbling, because I like really appreciate him.
Yeah,
and then her just doing again just like the really shallow morals and everything, being like, yeah, you care about Black lives, but also what about Black trans lives?
Right. Yeah,
like season 3 of Sex and the City slightly more. Than,
right.
Like just more and more niche, and then he's just like, you know, he's like a labor guy. He's just like, and it's like, and it's like watching a person I admire just trip over their own fucking dick.
Yeah,
it's just depressing.
Yeah, she was making him look like a boomer. Like he was just like, what are you kids into? Like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Like that, I'm sure that fits into this. Like because he's a naive boomer enough to have the genuine response of basically like, I mean, you don't say this obviously, but like, what do you think of X super specific identity group? And just the answer is just like, I don't. It hasn't occurred to me, honestly. Yeah, he's like, oh, I didn't know it existed until you just mentioned it. Like,
right? I don't know what to think about this. Right?
Yeah, that was a weird conversation. Yeah, because he was clearly like well-meaning and like trying to have a genuine conversation, and you know,
it's crazy. Isn't he like 3 times as old as No Name too?
I believe that. Yeah.
So like, of course,
and she like
that. Of course he's going to have that reaction, like, especially when they were talking like, oh, he was like talking over her or whatever. Like, he's an old fucking man. Like, that's what old men do. Like, it's not, I don't think it was like a big deal that was of like, oh, this nigga don't care about Black women and shit. Like,
no, and I think like one of the other things, like just to really give him credit, and maybe this is, I don't know, maybe this is me, you know, playing into certain games that people do online, but like, he's a guy who actually goes and like does the work.
Oh yeah,
right?
oh yeah.
so like he doesn't he isn't even of the mind in politics that we are, where like we've turned over how to combat these identity hucksters and all that.
Right,
shit. Like,
exactly.
he doesn't fucking know because like he has organizing skills that completely he has no idea how to even make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I'm saying
doing the work.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm directing movies
that's
too.
it.
Like I don't even have time for this shit. Like,
Yeah. I guess I'm saying he's like a boomer, but really what I mean is like I mean that tongue in cheek, but really what I mean is like he's just coming at it like completely blindsided by these games that go on in our circles.
Also,
you're saying it because he's literally coming to it with boomer Wojak. She's got her monster energy, and No Name is just like screaming with her yerba mate.
well, he's like actually a communist, and she's like baby communist, actually just anti-capitalist.
Right.
And so like, she was playing into the capitalist game, using bourgeois like talking points of like, oh, but what about this like identitarian problem? It's like he's not even in a frame of mind to even think that way.
Right.
He's like, well, yeah, we're past that. Obviously, I care about that shit. What are you talking about? Like,
Right. He's not aware of the whole virtue signaling oppression Olympics game. He's not hip to all that because that's changing every day. You really need to be like us, online poison, to like be aware of it and keep up with it and have arguments against it. Know how to talk to those people, know who's faking it, know who means it, and it's just misguided. Like he's just like blindsided by that shit. Like I think it's hard to say whether she is being disingenuous. I don't know.
She has good intentions.
Yeah, it's hard to tell because she used to. Like, somebody was pointing out like she used to be for like black capitalism, and she just learned about socialism. So it's like maybe she's young. Maybe she's like going through it. Like we all figured it out. We know none of us knew it immediately. So it's like maybe she's just figuring it out. But
she does use people listen to her though. She's got like a big platform, so it's given her this like idea that I think maybe that she has to already be right.
I just don't like the vibe.
Because you have so many people listening to you. So like when she gets into that with I almost said Bootsy Collins, Boots Riley. She gets into it with them. She's like, and she has positive backing from her like mostly Radlib supporters. Probably. She's like, okay, maybe I actually am right here.
I think the tragedy that gets me here, and just as a side note, like that, like rush to be like right all the time, or before you even have had time to develop your opinions and everything,
absolutely.
is like is what we're all under.
Absolutely,
it's really bad. But what the fuck was I gonna say? No, like I think one of the worst parts about it is just that like this is we're listening to these people talk, and it sounds like Boots Riley is, the one who's like just on the margins, and he's behind the curve on this issue. When like in reality, like we said earlier, like no, this stuff is all understood in his politics as being a communist, and he's the one that is leagues ahead of her in this way. But it doesn't get framed in that way, and that's probably not the takeaway that a lot of people had, and that's a problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it needs 100%. To. Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, I don't like a lot of like, and I don't, I'm gonna be careful because I don't want to make it sound like No Name is like these people, but I'm sure you all notice like the trend of like e-girls that are like celebs for being celebs. Like, well, she's a celeb off raps, and like she earned that from that skill or whatever. But like, just some of these e-girls who are just popular in Brooklyn or whatever, and they're telling other people about what real leftism is, And it's like their credentials are off of their like clout on the internet, and then
you're saying you want to be careful because you're making the argument that like dumb sluts are
yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Thank you for translating that. But anyways, yeah, I mean like,
I'll say it, man.
But no, I just mean like there's just this trend of like these people where they're like they're hip to all this bullshit that's trending, that's ever moving every day. The goalposts are always moving of the woke world, and she's these people are hip to it, and they're like discrediting people like Chomsky or like anybody who's spent their lives like really studying this shit. They just get
people canceling Marx.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a better example. Is the fuck Marx thing. Like you don't need that.
I don't need to read some white old man who's been dead forever telling me how to take care of my community.
Well, they'll cite, like, did you know he wrote a book called On the Jewish Question? And you're like, yeah, dude, because he's like rebutting anti-Semitism. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
yeah, like read it. Again, like, tell me what it's actually about if it's so fucking bad. Now, did y'all see that discourse where they were trying to say either Lenin or Stalin wasn't white or some shit like that? And they were like, they were like genderqueer or some shit like that.
What?
Like, what the fuck?
What,
like,
for real?
It's like the backflips they do to try to like validate, because of course, like all these leaders like Lenin, of course, had some good shit to say, right?
Yeah.
And how people are saying, oh, I don't want to listen to old white guys anymore. So of course, the only way to rebuttal that in an identity frame is, well, he wasn't technically white and he wasn't technically heterosexual. Right. Combat the writing. You know what I mean? Like, about what the nigga actually said.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like, who cares if he was white cis male, which he probably was. I mean, technically Lenin is like a Tatar. Or Tatar or whatever, so I'm not really sure exactly what that is. Or
you calling him fruity, or what is that?
I think he's swarthy.
Yeah, well, no, like a Bob Burger character.
Yeah.
There were all these pictures of like people posting of like Lenin having very dark skin, and like, to be totally honest, isn't that whole area of the world like very weird, like ethnicity wise? Like,
yeah, it's like Asiatic.
Yeah, it's. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
everybody's all mixed up. It kind of goes back to the whole Jesus was black thing. It's like, do you need Jesus to be black if you believe in what he said and all that? Do you need that for it to be valid? Like,
it goes right back to the Hotep stuff,
right?
Black, Egyptians.
Yeah, and it's like that's another thing. Like people always say like race is a social construct that was made up recently. So why are you trying to like make people who were there before the whole black white thing black or white? Like, well, then
it's like, if it's a construct, why are you playing into it? Like,
right.
Yeah, like Lenin's checking off like Latinx box on a census thing. Like, what are you talking? Yeah, like it's very modern constructs that like are just being made, and you're trying to like retroactively like retrofit it to like these people. It just doesn't make. And again, it just takes away from like, did they say something interesting because it was interesting, or did they say something interesting because of their melanin count? It's like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't give a fuck what race Malcolm X was, really. I like what he said. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't need to know. His race didn't really have anything to do with his ideas to me. I mean, like, of course they did, but like, it, like we talked about with Hobbes and all that, like all that shit is really interchangeable. And it's just funny to have this like essentialist argument. Like, that's why, I get why the Hotep thing happened and like the black supremacist thing, and why Malcolm X, like he's one of my favorite people because he made like 2 lifetime transitions and like 2 framework changes, which like the thing I talked about like before about like Descartes and all that. I like that. I like people who can like have the guts to do that, to like just drop everything they used to believe. And he did it twice, which is like pretty crazy. Like, when he shifted to the Nation of Islam, and then when he went to Mecca and was like, oh, not all white people are the devil. Like, to me, that's fairly like impressive. And like he, same thing with him. Like, he's definitely like a hero of mine for that reason. And like,
real shit. I mean, speaking of Malcolm X, did you see when they tried to cancel him and Huey P. Newton and a couple other fuckers? Because they were like, Malcolm X and Huey P. and Fred Hampton wouldn't have survived in a world that didn't hate.
Yeah. Oh my God, dude. Yeah, that shit. Yeah,
like
that shit. Yeah. Oh my God, man. I just laughed at that shit because somebody like replying to me like, this is literally the shit you're like, this is your foil. Like the shit that I talk about, like this is literally like somebody being like an exaggerated version of shit that I hate. And it's just like, yeah, of course, cancel him. Like, why not? Like, we're everybody's going to be canceled soon. The most woke person right now is going to be canceled in like a week or 2 or a year.
No name.
Yeah, she'll be absolutely. She won't be NB friendly enough or furry friendly enough, and they'll get her too. It's just that's why the whole presumption of like acting like like don't be too presumptuous of like this is the right correct thing. Like have some humility of like, oh shit, like I just figured this out and this is what I think now. But like, you know what I mean?
And the right thing changes too with like circumstance as well. So that's also important to understand. Like, there's not ever really one static right or wrong thing. Like,
absolutely,
it's not going to be right through trans-historical context or whatever. So.
Or the fact that like if someone's fucking life sucks, that like maybe they'll get into weird shit and become kind of a fucking asshole. That doesn't mean that we should like hate poor racists or things like that and like want them to fucking die because the racism's going to be in their genetic memory.
Right.
They gotta stand it out.
Because they're not melanated, my brother. They're deficient.
They need the tan. The tan will sort everything out. It'll get the mind right. No, honestly, that's the point I'm trying. Yeah, because like I just watched like Come and See that war movie and all that.
That shit.
Yo, that shit was a fucking trip. But yeah, the whole ending like basically, you basically refutes the whole notion of like, oh, let me go back and like or killing all the Nazis, genociding the Nazis wouldn't be an answer. I'll leave it at that so I don't spoil anything. But like generally that idea, and like people don't know that the World War II, like after the Treaty of Versailles, like they were being punished for World War One, and that economic stress that they were under gave way to the radicalization of the Nazis, and that's what led to Hitler being that way. If they weren't punished so severely economically, that shit probably would not have gone the way it did. And people don't know that, like, and it's the same thing with like Malcolm X or the black supremacist argument. Is like what you were saying, CUH, about the material thing. It's like, when you're in a tough spot, your mind will go to these things of like, we're not actually, when you're suffering, it'll be like, actually, we're superior. It's like a defense mechanism. Yeah. It's like a cope. And that's what the Germans did. And they went insane, and they went to, the Aryan race, making up all this shit. And blacks, like Malcolm X, the thing was very appealing to him, of course, because he's coming up in like a fucking fucked up situation, and his life is all, he's surrounded by fucked up shit. And it's something that is very appealing. It's hard to deny. As much as that shit is a joke, obviously, it's like, it's hard to deny why it would be appealing to you. Like, of course it would, because you're like struggling, and you need anybody to tell you something that you're actually valuable. It's like what's happening with the white supremacists now in America. It's like, if you're struggling now and everybody's telling you you're a piece of shit, somebody telling you like, actually, no, you're great, actually, you're superior, that's going to ring off very hard, and you're going to be drawn to that. Like, of course you will. So, you know what I mean? That's why it's two sides of the same coin. It's like, it's easy to just, dismiss it, but you can see why you get drawn to either one of those, really.
Oh, yeah. And the lack of a strong, like, you could call it leftist, but you could also call it like materialist or dialectical understanding of what's happening around as well. Like, there's not a strong presence of that to get people's attention.
Right.
So you have people that are like just lost and looking for that. The same way that like you were saying with Nazi Germany. I mean, there was all that economic stress, and there was no like the left was so discombobulated in Germany. They didn't have a good answer for the people, so they swung right. You see that happening now today, obviously as well. Yeah,
exactly. And it's just like these things people don't believe these things or put their lives on line for this shit just for fun or just because they're crazy or dumb. Like saying that shit is so dismissive. It's like some shit led to them being radicalized. ISIS, the same thing. It's like you can't. I hate when people dismiss this shit off the bat. It's like, oh, they're all fucking crazies or whatever. It's like, yo, you could have fallen for that too. Like if I give you the right conditions, you'd be Aryan or you'd be black supremacist or an ISIS. If I put you in the right stress, you would. So it's like
if they lived in their hell world of like what most of these people who are like white nationalists are afraid of with like ISIS, of like maybe one day it's going to be Sharia law here. So just like say maybe that existed, what would they be doing?
Right.
Like, they would also react in the same kind of way probably as ISIS is, but in their own form.
Right.
Just like super white nationalism.
Yeah, that's true. Like how y'all said in one of the episodes recently, like everything has a material fucking reason why it's happening. Like, so like the fact that people can understand, well, people can barely even understand this. Like the fact that like crime has like a material reason behind it. Like that nigga's not gonna sell drugs if he can feed his kids. You know what I mean? Like if you put somebody in a position where they have to feed their kids, they're probably gonna sell ass or sell drugs. Like
Absolutely.
The same reason, like if you put like some of these white libs or whatever, put them in a trailer park and have everybody tell them that they ain't shit for their entire life, even other white people.
Exactly.
They're gonna eventually, you know what I'm saying, listen to the fucking Nazi guy down the street who's always been nice to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that there is like really something to be said too for looking at a culture that's like so like very like forward thinking, like we're going forward, we're changing how we look and the things we value, and like at every step you're being told that you don't have a place in that future. They don't want you here.
Right.
When you have an issue with that problem just in itself is denied. And then someone comes up to you and they're like, I don't have progress in the future, but I have just like this deep, rich tradition of just like our cultural heritage, brother. And, and you didn't pay attention in history because like you're probably a fucking retard. And so like I'm just gonna come to you and I'm gonna be the first person in your life that's like read a fucking history book and we're gonna share this thing together, right? And it's concrete because it came before. I don't know, and I think that retrospect really perfectly accents the progress on the other side.
Yes, that's why I feel like that BAF shit is like the Hotep shit. I really felt that way. I was like, yo, like all that Sargon of Akkad shit, and I just see this weird like, if he's faking a British accent or what, he's like this like right wing like I don't know if he's part of like gamer gator. Yeah. Oh yeah. What? Yeah. Like he just has this like appeal of like, oh, harkening back to like, Western excellence or whatever. Like, it's just like, it's hard not to see the parallel between that and like a lot of like the Wakanda shit and like, just a lot of whatever Beyonce is doing right now, whatever movie she's doing. Like, it's hard not to see that comparison where it's like, yo, you don't need to like romanticize and like, turn this shit into something crazy. You don't need that. Like, you can look at it with sober eyes and just know the history. You don't need to do, you don't need to write it off as like, oh, this is all garbage and they're savages. Like when the Cannon was saying, like they're like up in the mountains, like not getting enough light. Just turn it.
I mean, it's straight up like you just don't need to be an ethno-nationalist.
Yeah,
ethno-nationalist. And like, and I think Amy has this really good point about, or just they've been talking on their show lately about, like the online left is the attack dog and the kind of vanguard of just the libs, right? And I think that kind of using that same kind of point, but in the case of hoteps and everything, like I'm of the mind, and I think it's pretty important to keep our eye on the prize here, that like, like mainstream non-hotep libs are still doing ethno-nationalism right now. Right. That's what they're fucking doing. Right? and hoteps are the crazy, funny, wacky circus mirror version of that.
Right, exactly.
Just like how, you're like performative anime AVI Twitter accounts that are like posting communist content and everything are like the garish, like Joe Biden can be like, well, I'm not down with those little but it's still important to see that like the same meaningful content is present in both, right? Right. In meaningful ways, the online communist represents functionally all the same things that matter about what Joe Biden represents, and and the hyperbolic circus mirror of hoteps still fundamentally represents a lot of that. They're fucking ethno-nationalists, and the fucking mainstream Black Lives Matter libs are fucking ethno-nationalists, and like that matters. And I mean, I don't want to repeat myself, but like.
I wouldn't say they're ethno-nationalists. I mean, I think they're probably just race essentialists more so. Like, I don't think they're actively trying to build an all-black state in the mainstream liberal left. Like that just wouldn't.
I would say functionally, if you're just basing your politics around that, like the end goal. The end goal, maybe I'm not factoring into my definition so much, but like functionally, I don't see the difference. Right? Just kind of like how like people identify as communists now. Like no, like we haven't achieved a communist state ever. Like people still go by communists, right? Like they're walking and talking like ethno-nationalists in my mind.
Yeah, because I would say like the end goal of race essentialism, even if they can't see it, is like ethno-nationalism. Like I feel like a lot of them, like I mean, most of the identitarian motherfuckers are like leading that way. They just can't conclude where their path is going to lead because they know it's not right. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like especially like I don't know if it was Chaz or like one of the other ones that they tried to set up, but they had like a black only.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I was about to bring that up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like that's the end result of, but they're not. They don't even realize it. They're like falling into it, but they're running towards it, falling into it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think you're totally right. Yeah, there's a difference of like intention where like maybe they don't see down the road of like the only logical conclusion, but that road has to go. That there's only a few directions it could go. I think that of a lot of rad lib shit in general, where it's like I think a lot of the liberal. That's why they're radical liberals, because they take liberal, premises and they run it to the ground. So it's like if your mindset is all right, well racism bad, we need to deal with racism if we want to solve anything, and then you start to realize, oh, it's innate in everybody. It's like heuristics and generalizations that you can't deprogram from people. Really, like you can't fully get away. You can't solve it the way that you're hoping to, which is like utopian fantasy that's against human nature. If you want that, then like eventually, if you pursue that train of thought, the only logical thing is to forcibly remove that, and basically through when I talk to like tankies or whatever, like when I ask them like how you want to get rid of racism, if that's the number one problem, if that's what's causing capitalism and all our suffering, right? It's not the symptom, that's the source that you think it is. How do you fix that? And usually what I hear is like camps. Like the ones who are far rad lib, they come up with camps and they say camps or kill them. you know?
Damn.
So that's what I've heard. Like, I've heard some of that shit. And it's like, yeah, it's this thing where you can't see further down the road. Like, these libs, these like anti-racist or like super woke libs right now, like, they don't see that at the end of the road. I'm sure if I said that to them, they'd be like, well, that's kind of crazy. But, you know, they don't see that further down the path that the only real way to get their solution, because there is no real solution to that, is, yeah, exactly. It's like, there's no other way to get to what they want. There's no other way. And it's like, that's why you need to not have that train of thought to begin with. You need a whole different rail to figure out why things are going on the way they are that is actually solvable. You know, that shit is not solvable the way you've laid it out. And, you know, they're going to end up that way. You know, I don't know if all the white nationalists, you know, how far along they are en masse in that train of thought, but it's the same thing. I mean, there's only one way to really fix it. I talked to some right wingers and I'm like, yo, how are you going to fix the, you know, the fact that the country is becoming less white? And they'll say, like, fertility rates. You know, they always bring up fertility rates. I'll be like, how are you going to do it without getting rid of people? Like mass deportation or mass genocide? Like, how are you going to fix it? We're already mixed up. What are you going to do? Like, most white people have black DNA. Like, most black people have white DNA. What are you going to do? Yeah, it's too late here, especially here. Like, what are you going to do about that? And like,
didn't they say like all black Americans have at least like 12% white in them or some shit like that?
Oh yeah, all that shit. Yeah, and the white people too. There's already some, like, you know, everybody's already mixed up. Like, that's why these census boxes don't make any. They're a joke, because you can't you can't put all that shit into those neat categories, and it's already mixed up. So what's the solution? You're gonna get rid of? You're gonna boot them or kill them? Like, which one is it? And they'll say things like, "Oh, well, fertility rates. We'll just outbirth them," and it's like, okay, but
we'll do eugenics.
Right. But either way, you see that again. There's only a few ways to resolve this. Like, if they want a race war, there's only a few ways to fix that. Is to do it. You know what I mean? Like, well, I don't see another solution for them.
Dude, this is where like I don't know. I feel like I do need to like have kind of a soft touch these days right now, just with like how everything's going kind of crazy, because like I have and have always had like a pretty like pessimistic view of like just the depths of how shitty left id poll can get, and how okay with that shit people can be. And I think that this is something that like to a certain extent, rightfully so, is kind of laughed out of the left all the time, right? If you say like, you know, if someone talks about like not white genocide as like the whole body of politics that is, but just the idea of like a white genocide or things like that, like you get laughed at. And to be fair, a lot of these people that, you know, posted a bunch about South Africa and all that shit are fucking cringe and hucksters, right? But like, I don't know, when I like, I follow some right-wing accounts, and when I hear them talk about like, I mean, BAP is straight up just like on the level of just being like, we're getting like exterminationist rhetoric. Like, that's where they're at with it. Yeah. Like I'm not talking like that, and I feel embarrassed to talk like that, because like I feel like that's just like kind of nutso to talk that extreme. But like, I don't think that thinking in that direction is actually like really irrational at all. And I think that the left is like
dismissive.
way too. I think that we all agree that they're too dismissive. It's like I think that it's like, I hope that I'm wrong, but like everything I see is just like, no, I don't see how you look at the conditions and look at the course of history and not see how that's just, it's very rational.
The way I balance that idea is that like, there's the LARPers on both ends who want these fantasy things, and they're the ones who usually, if you check out how they're living, are in the most dire straits. They've gone full, you know, insane, and want either the extermination of all white people or the extermination of all black people or whatever. Like, they believe this to the fullest, and they're usually the ones like on the margins, like what they usually joke about. Oh, you're the incel, like on 4chan, like who's poor or whatever. Like, that's where a lot of that anger is coming from. So en masse, the right and the left, I don't think is at that point yet. But that's why I say, as things get worse, the id poll getting worse, as like a perfect correlation, positive correlation. As things get worse, that LARP or whatever shit that we can dismiss is like, you know, it's like keeping your powder dry, where they're like, oh, we're living under a fascist state right now. I'm like, yo, shut the fuck up. Like, what are you going to call it when it is fascist? What are you going to call it when it actually gets to that way? What are you going to say? Like, you keep your powder dry for a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, just relatively, like, but they're always extremists with everything, with all language, because they want to flatten all nuance and, and render it useless. But yeah, it's the same thing where it's like, it's not there yet. But that doesn't mean I'm dismissive of how things could get. I know it could get that way because, as the condition worsens, this is going to be the only things that people will gravitate to and think will make sense. And then again, the race war, if that's going, if it's going to happen, that's when it'll become more of a real thing and less of a LARP. And I it's a joke now, right? Male side, like killing all black people, or like, it's hysterical now. But I get what you mean, because these things are already in some people's minds, and they're going to be in a lot more people's minds as things get worse. And that should not be dismissed about.
Exactly. No, real shit. Because didn't they catch those cops from North Carolina that were on that server talking about they couldn't wait to go out and just like shoot minorities and shit, it's already there. Like, I mean, it's not there, of course, like fully yet,
right?
Because but it's like you're saying, it's creeping there, and it's gonna get there closer and closer. The worse like shit gets materially. Like this winter going into like 2021 is crazy.
Oh yeah.
Like it's gonna be insane. Like the homelessness rates are already through, but now they're evicting everybody, and then it's gonna be cold. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna get real crazy in every aspect. Like
it's honestly like kind of fucking hilarious if you think about so we have private media that just by virtue of just being capitalist entities are just fat fucking pigs that can't help but just basically like indoctrinate the entire fucking country to just lose their fucking minds. And then we obviously just have like the material conditions being just a fucking nightmare already. And then for just like in 1 year, like this population, for as fucking shaken up and like psychotic as we've basically been conditioned into being, just all of this stuff to happen just one after the other. I mean, it's just, I can't think of a populace that's less equipped to actually live through some kind of real chaotic shit.
100%.
Then who? Then Trump?
Then us.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, that's why. Yeah, I mean, in my mind, it was always like a direct correlation. I was like, all right, if this crash comes in, it has to turn up, and it has. And like, if Floyd is getting killed over needing to use a counterfeit 20, then how come nobody asks why the fuck did he need a counterfeit 20?
Counterfeit 20.
Why the fuck did he shouldn't be in a position where he needs that shit. So like, then the whole chain of events wouldn't even happen. Like, you need to address that. And most people, like whether they're white nationalists or black supremacists, like those people, like whatever is like hurting them, they could think about what's actually fucking their lives up and focus on that. But again, like that's the whole point of the scapegoating. It's like it's easy just to pin it on another group, and that's why as these things get worse and they're not going to be addressed, and everybody has secretly taken the black pill on economic reform and economic justice, everybody has across the board, then the only thing that's left is, all right, well, if we're crabs in a barrel, then fuck these other crabs, because they're taking the little crumbs that are up for both of us. And that's why that's what the whole immigration thing is to me. And it's like the biggest thing is just to get people to shake that mentally. But, obviously, as things get worse, it'll be very difficult to. And you see it every day, and it's getting worse and worse. And yeah, like you said, Chef, like in the winter, like, imagine all this shit times like 20. You know what I mean? Like the psychosis specifically, like all the shit we're seeing,
Yeah. Not to mention the election will happen around that time too. So either Joe Biden wins,
I forgot about that,
through fucking rigging it. Because if they hold a popular election and say electoral politics was actually like a popular election or whatever, Joe Biden's getting fucking killed in that shit. Like, I don't know anybody who's really excited about vote for Joe Biden. So like if it comes out that Biden won or whatever, everybody's gonna know that shit is bullshit, especially Trumpers, and all they're gonna do is fall more into like their far right rhetoric. You know what I mean? And then the left is going to go to sleep.
Right. Totally disagree. I think Biden. Well, okay. I'm just saying it. I'm interjecting it now, quick. So because I totally agree, people are going to lose their shit if that happens. People are going to lose their shit at the election, regardless. But I do think, and I think that's an interesting topic. But I do think, to be fair, that Biden has like actually a pretty fucking good chance right now, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and I know that that's an unpopular opinion here. right. But I'm just saying, like, I'm making the argument without any credit given to Joe the man himself.
No, of course.
Right, 100%. Like the neoliberal machine is going to push him in there.
And also just like this says more about Trump than it does about Joe's chances.
Right, because if you're talking about like democratically, right? Because that's how I think about it. Like democratically, if it's as close to a real election as possible, I don't think he has the numbers, and that's why I was asking about like who's got the numbers. Like I don't think like that poll I was asking, like most of those people put like the neolibs. I don't think these people. I've been saying for a while. I don't think they have as much presence as they do. I see them in New York because it's bougie here, and I see like bougie liberals that like, yeah, you know, I'm a communist, I'm a socialist, but I have to vote for Biden. Like I see that shit. But they're living good. Like they're living good. I think there's not that many people that are living good. So I think that's the people who vote for Biden is the people who say like harm reduction and all this dumb shit. I think everybody who's really going through it doesn't know what the fuck harm reduction even like. What the fuck does that mean? What the fuck are you talking about? Harm reduction? What the fuck? Like who is in dire straits? Like, well, at least Joe Biden will, you know what I mean? Well, at least he'll make community college free. Or like, who's like doing this technocrat shit on the street?
And he won't even do that.
He won't even do that shit.
Right.
He won't even do that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he. Yeah.
Now I might be a little biased.
Fair, that was part of the platform.
Really? I mean, I don't think that would ever happen though. Regardless,
hell no.
If he does get in office,
hell no.
Like he could say whatever the fuck he wants to right now as part of his platform, which is like still just not going to be shit he's going to do at all. Like these things that he said about like bumping 15 years off the like environmental plan or whatever the fuck. No chance. That's like actually going to be something he focuses on. What's going to happen is like we're going to like if he gets in office, right? It's going to be time for your liberals to be like, oh, now we got to undo everything Trump did and like forget anything that I had that like was progressive even at all that I tried to adopt to appease people. Like we're just going to do absolutely nothing and just keep doing the same shit we're doing. But I'm going to like repeal some service level shit that Trump did to make it look like good.
Right, and they always have a foil to blame, and it's always like Obama came in like, yo, I'm going to fundamentally change things, and then for 8 years, even when he had a super majority at the beginning, 8 years, the excuse for him was, oh, the GOP is stopping it. It's not his fault. It's the GOP. And Biden now is talking to donors, right? And he says nothing will fundamentally change. So that's even lower off rip, just running when you could be overpromising, right?
Hell,
he's not even doing that.
Republican, like GOP, longtime GOP people.
Right, like we talked with Slate. Yeah, exactly. So like he's not even saying that shit in this early. So the compromise he'll make there, and yeah, again, every day in the news it'll just be like, you know, first it'll seem like nothing's wrong, like when Obama was president. There were no drone strikes, no deportations, everything was fine. Right. And then, you know, and no tax cuts for the rich, everything was fine, even though he's doing all that shit, the same shit, no matter who would have been president. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, and Biden's going to be there, and they're not going to talk about any of it. And if it is ever brought up, he's got them as the excuse. Oh, it's the MAGA people. They're in Congress. They're filibustering. I can't get community college. Sorry. That's what's going to happen. We already saw it for 8 years. You know what I mean? Like, I think people know this. I think people already know this. Like, I don't think people are like that naive. Like, I don't think this technocrat liberal shit flies among the underclass. I really don't. I don't think that they're like, yo, harm reduction, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like in 4 years, we'll get this, small, tedious change in this one policy. Right. I don't think they're thinking about that shit.
Nah, really, because like when you think about like the rioters, like rioting, do you really think they're gonna be calm because Joe Biden's in office? Like their material needs are still not getting met. Like they're still mad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, no, real facts.
You know, I don't like this whole like this conflation of like the protesters and the rioters, because I feel like that was two different fucking things. And like people, like the protesters, like all that co-optation shit, like, you know, defund the police and all that. I feel like that was, you know, I don't think the people who were rioting and fucking shit up were like, yo, I'm going to burn this fucking police precinct because I want to fund the police by 50% of their budget. You know what I mean? Right. They're not thinking that. They're like, yo, fuck this shit. I'm tired of this shit. I'm pissed. You know what I mean? They're not thinking like anybody who's looting or doing any of that shit. Like they weren't thinking of these things. And then you got all these, you know, like white people in Brooklyn coming out protesting like defund the police, and they get mushed together when, to me, two different shit, completely two different shit. Like these people are going to vote Biden. I don't think those people rioting are voting Biden.
Oh, they're not going to vote. Yeah.
Yeah. Yo. Yeah. See, this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't like that conflation between those two things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, electoral. I mean, I think when people say like, oh, there's more of like the neolibs are more like representative of where the country's at and everything.
I don't think any of them represent it.
Well, I know, but the point I'm about to make is just that like, I think one of the assumptions that just isn't getting stated out loud that half of the people are bringing to this question is like they're looking at it through the electoralism lens. right? And like, yeah, no, like the people in the riots, just aren't gonna fucking vote, you know. I don't know, just bringing it back to this like previous point that we've like talked about before of like who's more representative, you know, like people are disenchanted with Biden and the Democrats and everything. Like, I don't think like anyone is even gonna really reasonably argue against that, or I'm sure some retard would argue against that, I guess, but like I'm never gonna argue against that. It's just that like that's not worth a whole hell of a lot, you know, like for all intents and purposes, like most people are like neolib cucks and everything because like they're the only ones that are actually speaking up,
right?
Within the people who vote. The people are politically exercising their political efficacy, basically. Right.
Exactly.
Right. That's true. That's true. I guess of people who are participating in politics, I guess they do. Yeah. I guess that's a fair point to parse out. Like, all right, well, if we're talking about who's voting, then it doesn't matter who's objectively more popular because we're in this small pie of who's actually showing up.
We have a bourgeois government structure.
Right.
Like right down to the ground, baby.
Yeah, but I think the MAGA people are coming out. I think they're coming out. I think they're as much as they're
fucking vote.
Yeah, because as much as they're dejected and probably weren't voting before, you know, Trump brought new voters. Like they're gonna vote for him. I think they're mobilized because they think he's one of them. And what you're
people
saying?
on the right, I think, have a little bit more faith in like the American system. Like, so people who are going to be more like apolitical right-wing swinging who might go out and support Trump are more likely to vote than someone who would be left-wing, like populist swinging usually, is what I would think.
Yeah, I mean, Republicans vote more.
Right.
Like Republicans
Regardless.
are more active. Again, this was the point I made, you know, on a previous app, I forget which, but like, and I'm going to try to hone the way I phrase it here a little bit more, but like, and I'll just say within the bourgeoisie, right? Like, apolitical normies that are like middle class, upper middle class are liberals because they're the people that are more cultured, right? And I know like the whole point we make about like MAGA is like rural bourgeois and that is just like objectively bigger than like urban bourgeois, but like I'm talking just like the absolute normie that like has a home and just like lives in the suburb and everything, that like doesn't give a fuck about politics at all or anything like that. Like that person's a fucking lip cuck. And I think because you have to be on a basic level to be able to like make sense of what's going on your screen when you're watching Saturday Night Live. Sure. and so like what the Dems have to do right now is just like scare everyone enough to be like, you fucking slob that just watches TV, you need to actually go this year. You need to actually do that. And if they can actually just do that, like enough of like
those are the same people who are terrified about COVID though.
Totally. So it's a fucking Hail Mary, especially because again, like you are just like, you're just really hoping that like your TV advertisement, you know, low culture of American low culture actually moves someone to do anything. We have like the most unmoving culture in human fucking history. Anyway, sorry, I'm kind of rambling, I think.
And that's real shit. Speaking of like ads or whatever, like that just reminded me, like I seen a Biden ad against Trump, and that shit is so weak. Like, the Trump ads against Biden, like the Trump ads against Biden get
they're so good.
And that's why he's winning. The Trump got the shit in the bag. Like, that's
you think he's gonna win?
I mean, I'm not gonna like underestimate Biden and the DNC at all, because like I have seen the polls and they did say a lot of people were leaning towards Biden or whatever. Yeah. But like I just think when it's time, like especially after if they do debates, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. I see it, and I might be biased because like I just moved from like the South, like now I'm in South Carolina, and so like all around me is that populist right. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And like literally the only people I see that care about Biden are those lib cucks that live in the suburbs, which there's not that many here.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I'm saying, yo. They're on a shrinking island. They're
the average suburb person in Alabama is not a lib. That's just like for sure. Like the people I dealt with like growing up, even like though like on social lukewarm issues, they'd say like, oh sure, like maybe like I like to see like more representation in my TV shows or whatever, or I don't care about that or whatever, they're still not going to go out and vote Dem just because like that's what maybe lines up with their like quasi-moral system.
Yeah, I think it's very, very insular. The more bougie I've met the person, the more liberal. It seems like a perfect correlation. And as far as like regional stuff, like, you know, urban like density, like if you're here in these cities and you're in like the urban elite centers, you know what I mean, everybody's packed into the same spot. So what does that equate to in terms of like the electoral college or just like, you know, voting sway? Like, I guess there's more like objectively more people here, but it's, you know, just in terms of electoral things, like you're locked in, and there's always been this drain from the outer areas towards the cities. So it just gets redundant to the point where, all right, if you know, these stupid morons who don't understand the electoral college here are like, yeah, you need to vote for Biden, or they told me to vote for Clinton in 2016. It's like they don't understand, like it's literally meaningless. Like our vote here is meaningless. So it's like, you know, all the like normal people here who don't vote in the presidential elections are just like, yeah, what difference does it make? Because they're right. And all the bougie libs are like, no, it matters. And, you know, they're the ones who are wrong. And, you know, their vote doesn't even fucking matter. So it's just like, I don't think they have as much presence, you know, even in electoral context. Like, I don't think they have as much presence as, you know, the populist right is pissed. They're fucking pissed. They're amped up. You know, again, I've seen a lot of normies just drift since 2016, like drift to the right, drift towards MAGA off, you know, woke culture alone. Just off that alone, they've drifted to the right and been like, yo, these people are like shaming me, so I don't respond well to that. So I'm going towards these people that don't shame me. You know what I mean? Like that alone has moved a lot of fucking people. And I think they've got more invested, more drive. And there's less people out here that are just like, you know, talking about harm reduction and just like that. There's not that many of these people. I don't believe it. I don't, you know, I that's just how I feel. I really don't think there's that many of them.
Well, Trump did that. He did that prescription drugs bill. Or whatever, where he lowered the price, and a bunch of like people who I considered libs from back home that were probably more so apolitical were like on Facebook, like, "Yo, holy shit, Trump did this thing right."
Yo,
like, blah, blah, blah.
exactly.
Like, so,
exactly.
I think those people are, if they'd be either more likely to not vote because they're like, I mean, shit, he's doing some things right, or even hell, go out and vote for him just because Biden's such a like lukewarm sack of shit.
Bro, as soon as they send us the second STEMI check.
Oh shit, yeah, dude. And they're talking about that. I just saw an article about it today. Republicans like released some like $5 trillion package that they're like working on or something that they want. And so it's the Republicans that were the first ones to initiate it.
Yeah.
And even though they have been like, I'd say it's pretty much a stalemate on both ends in Congress, obviously. Like they both suck ass. But the people are going to think that the Republicans are the ones that got them cash. Exactly. At least I would think so.
Absolutely.
Because Trump's in office.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly.
People are so dumb. Like, let me dumb. They just don't. Like, we're so disaffected that niggas don't even care to learn about it. So it's like Trump's in office. Anything good that happened, it was Trump that did it.
Yeah, people want Trump.
Facts.
Right.
Facts. You get the check. You get the Trump bucks. Like that's they call it Trump bucks. Like it's associated with him for the most part. Like that's how all those stimulus checks were. Like the Bush ones. Like they get associated with the president. They don't get associated with who's got the majority of the Senate or the House. You know what I mean? Like it's just like this guy gave it to me. So it's like. Yeah, I mean, Slav even brought that point up like way back when we were starting. Like, is that the Republican Party is becoming more of the workers' party than the Dems are, and the Dems are like more bought and paid for. As much as the GOP is bought and paid for, like the Dems are more so. And they're like Romney bring up UBI, like they're the ones who are shifting more towards the working class favor. And like when I saw that prescription pill shit, like you want to talk about harm fucking reduction. You know what I mean? Like, who's doing the harm reduction?
Physical harm, like literal.
Exactly. He's talking about some Bernie shit. Again, like, people did not know, like, in 2016, when I was watching, like, Bernie and Trump in the primary debates, like, I saw mad parallels. And I'm like, yo, I don't know how people don't see this shit. They're both anti-war. They're both against trade deals. They're talking about shit that applies to, like, regular people. And, like, that's the real difference. And that's why that shit has more sway in my mind than all this other shit that's going on. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, he didn't sign TPP, and Hillary would have. And whatever more trade deals, she would have signed. Any Democrat, Biden, all these guys are going to sign mad trade deals, and they would have taken us to war. Venezuela, Iran, like she would have had us in war by now. And any Democrat who's going to be elected is going to have us in a war. You can bet on it. That's a fact.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like it's just so blatantly obvious. Like the other things, like the tax cuts and the deportations and the drone strikes, like these things are going to go on outside of the presidency. But the things that he had, you know, a thumb on the scale on, that's, you know, I'm not saying he's like a socialist, like he's not a materialist hero. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you want to talk about harm reduction, he seems like more of the harm reduction than the Democrats do. So, you know, especially with this prescription pill shit, like AOC's talking about being called a bitch, right? That's what she's talking about. She's making a speech about that, and he's doing you getting real shit that'll actually make people's lives better. I'm like, that shit made me so tight. I was like, you stupid motherfuckers on the left, like, do you not see, like, who's going to have more sway? Who's going to have people on their side? Like, it's going to be him. It's going to be, it's not going to be we look like clowns. Like, the left look like clowns. And it's like, you know what I mean? This shit doesn't resonate with regular people. And they're like, oh, well, everybody feels AOC on that. And, like, nobody likes Trump. It's like, who are you talking about? Who are you talking about? Who the fuck are you talking about? Like, you know,
echo chambers.
Exactly. Your Twitter feed, your mutuals, your group chat, like, that's what that is. That shit seems mad insular to me. Like,
nah, real shit. This kind of ties in because I don't know how long we have to talk to y'all, especially like Slav, because Slav, I remember you said you were on the ground at Chaz at a point in time. And
he was.
You said something because I want to talk about like how they. Like I'm on the ground a lot at the protests in this area, which haven't gotten like out of hand except for like the first 2 days. But, like I'm always there on the ground. And Slav was talking about in Chaz how like some weird white guy or whatever got on stage or whatever, did some weird shit, and the BLM organizers told the ANCOM kids to like get him down or whatever, and they put him in a headlock and they tried to like point their fingers at the ANCOM kids as if the ANCOM kids were doing something wrong or whatever, right? So like. Me personally, I am an ANCOM, and like when I'm at the protests or whatever, that's the niggas I'm running with, the ANCOM kids. You know what I mean? Like, and like it's crazy to see a lot of times. Like even this is a literal story, bro. So we're at the protests, right? And like I feel like the first 3 days of protests, you could see a lot of people getting disaffected by it because like it was getting co-opted by those like lib fuckers, like real quick.
Right.
Like, there was a guy who was trying to run for Congress. And like he told people to donate to like this bail fund for the protests, which people were actually getting bailed out, or whatever. But he then took like thousands of dollars from that bail fund and funneled it right into his congressional candidacy run or whatever. And like people are like automatically couldn't trust it. That same dude, we were at the protest or whatever, and this kid who's in PSL. Like PSL down here is pretty cool. I know in New York I hate PSL a little. Yeah, in New York I'm not gonna lie, I hated PSL because like it was like a lot of gentrified. But like down here, it's like real like grassroots or whatever. Like there's only like 8 members down here or whatever. And like so one of the PSL members, a black dude, like he's like from like the hood here or whatever. And he's like we're at the protest and they're saying all this liberal bullshit. And he's like, fuck 12. He just start like sit fuck 12, whatever, right? And these fuckers, these liberals, immediately pointed him out to the cops and said he's trying to incite a riot. This one right here. This one's trying to incite a riot. Mind you, this guy just got out on bond for being at the protest like a week earlier, and they're trying to get him locked up again.
Wow.
It's like crazy little shit like that. You see how quick like and easy they can co-opt these movements mad easy. Like my people, we've been out there trying to like keep it like in a material conversation. Like we just did a march the other day, and like it was only like ANCOMs and like PSL and like all those people there. So it stayed on like a material conversation, and everybody passing by was like, this is some real shit. Right. But on other days, like especially at the beginning of this, it was all, let's kneel for 8 minutes and 46 seconds because that's how long it took for Floyd to die. Like, what the fuck is that? Yeah, symbolic shit. Yeah, like nothing real, nothing that'll help anybody. You said you're in South Carolina? Yeah, I'm in Columbia, South Carolina right now. Gotcha. They like the National Guard like rode tanks through our city and all that shit, and it scared people. It dead ass scared people. Like if you see the protests from like the first 2 days. We were getting like shot with tear gas and like shot with rubber bullets, you know what I mean? But like now the cops sit there and they're like chilling because they know like niggas is not going to do anything because they beat the shit out of us. You know what I mean? So like the niggas is not doing anything here. Like they shot me with the rubber bullets. I've been in tear gas a lot down here. Like we've been getting beat like, you know, and people are like, you know, sad about it, you know? So it's like I get on one hand how like a lot of the shit in Portland is performative. Right. For like, for me to real see, shit going on too. Right. Like Riot Ribs. I don't know. Riot Ribs. Like they sit in like the square where they protest every day in Portland, and they like just feed people. Like literally, like, you know, people's material needs. Here's food for free or whatever. You know what I mean? But like then you see like a whole bunch of moms. What were they singing? Oh, hands up, please. Yeah. That shit. Yeah. What is that? Like, what the hell is that? Yeah, it's like out of like the Twilight Zone or something for real. Real shit. It's like Handmaid's Tale, real quick. Yeah, absolutely. It's very important. I like to parse out which is which, because the conflation thing is mad, like, disturbing. And like, you know, I'll be talking about like, yo, these riots are clearly a response of, you know, this crash it's pretty fucking, you know, catastrophic.
and people will be like, "Oh, no, it's not. I mean, they're doing yoga or whatever." I'm like, "No, I saw that. I know what you're talking about, but you can't brush over all of it as that. Like, you have to parse it out. You have to know which is the co-opting, that shit that you talk about, the Portland scene or whatever, and which is the real shit. Like, you have to know that there's both going on. You can't act like all of it is astro. That shit always irks me. It's like, oh, it's all astroturf. It's like, no, bullshit. It's not. I can tell what is to a degree. I can tell what's being co-opted and what's real, and you can't tell me that none of this shit is real. Like, there has to be real shit. Like, shit is fucked up right now.
Not even the anti-mask niggas. You can't even say they're fully astroturf. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, Egg, dude in the chat who's making a good point. Like, a lot of this stuff, you don't even need real conspiracy or psyop. It's like things start to organically happen. Where if you spread enough seeds long enough, people just reinforce this thinking on their own. You don't really need to, like, it's not like literally a Fed doing it. It's like people are just brainwashed or whatever. It's like, but yeah, the conflation thing is very dangerous, and that's why it's like it's really hard to talk about this shit, because people are either gonna frame it as like, oh yeah, it's all like liberal bullshit, or they're gonna frame it as like, oh, it's like savage crime and needs to be put down. It's like there's nothing else. You know what I mean? It's like it's crazy. Yeah, it feels like huge fucking psyop all the time. But
and like when I was at Chaz in like those like ANCOMs that got kind of like directed to kind of physically intervene with this guy and everything. Fucking just that night, man. Like I get home and I'm scrolling through the old Twitter, and like right wing accounts are posting videos of those exact ANCOMs holding the guy down, and just this entire fucking thing. And like I was there that day, and like really the most accurate way of describing what Chaz was that day was basically just like a farmer's market. It was like a farmer's market, and like that's the people that were doing cool shit,
right?
And of course, like this isn't me saying like actually Chaz is cool or anything, like, but there was cool shit going on there, and I don't know. I mean, I defended it at the time too, just because like I think I don't want to be like a complete pessimistic asshole, but
no, of course.
I mean, also now like kids are dead, so that kind of
that kind of sucks.
But yeah, man, I kind of forgot what I was about to say anyway. But yeah, no, I thought that was interesting. It was this tale of two cities, and like while that was going on, I was getting footage of like the main stage where like one of the main organizers were talking, and yeah, I mean like these are professionals, you know what I mean? And like I'm not even saying this as necessarily like a bad thing, right? Like I have a respect for like the shark politician. I really do. But yeah, I mean, it's just, these are just very different worlds. And like, the person running like the medic tent, or like the people basically being like the necessary security, or the professional politicians and consultants. Like, which of those three do you think is going to be like in control of the narrative? And like,
this?
100%. No, that's a fact, and it's crazy because like you see that so much, like how you're saying, like the professional politicians or like libs and neo, they have way more representation, so they're able to guide the conversation. So like, I
have the power,
think, right. Like, I genuinely think the populist left is way bigger than the neo lib.
Me too.
Me too.
It's crazy to see that like the neo-libs are able to point the populist left as the outside agitator, when really the neo-libs are the outsiders. They have absolutely what we're doing.
Absolutely.
They came in and tried to co-opt the shit into theirs, but they're since they have the cameras, they're the ones who own the cameras. They're able to say, actually, it's that fucking guy. Like, I don't know if y'all seen this is like the pinnacle of all this shit. Like the person who was killed outside the Wendy's, Rayshard Brooks. That was his name.
Yep.
Yeah,
and then his couple episodes back.
His girl was burning down that Wendy's, and because she was white, they were like, lock her up, she's making us have a bad name. And now he's dead, and his girl's is in jail. We're supposed to be like defund the police. Like, what the fuck?
People were like posting pictures of her online and videos like, yo, she's not one of us, like, get her. Like, and I've seen videos of like people tackling folks that are like just like breaking up like bricks or some shit. Yeah, and they're just like people tackling them like no, like and giving them to the feds.
Crazy shit.
While
Crazy
they're there
shit.
to try to protest the feds, and it's like I don't know, like that's what they want is for people to just look at these protests and be like, oh, this is all co-opted, like it's bullshit. So like you have to be dialectical when understanding that like the reason they're trying to co-opt it or that they have to a certain degree is because there's something real happening there.
Yeah, all these fucking mayors.
So that's why they expended the energy to try to co-opt it.
Right.
Yeah. And it's not fully like they may have the stronger presence as far as media presence and stuff.
Right.
But I think if you look at the people on the ground, there's definitely people on the ground that have the like I don't know, I guess quote right intentions. Or whatever.
Right, yeah, the fucking like mayors that show up and like get tear gas and they got mad cameras and like council members like they're pulling up like they're there like, oh, I'm standing here like Kamala or whoever, like they're there like, oh, I'm part of this, like I'm with this. It's like, no, you're not. No, you're fucking not. Like, right. And that's the problem with the conflating thing is that people who are not like on the right or people who are on the right in general, however far, they'll just see it all as like one lib left blob. And then it kind of like discredits it. And like, that's what they want. That's what they want. Yeah. And like, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of those people that go along with it and like think, oh, thank God Kamala's here or like whatever. Like, but, you know, not everybody. That's just the reality. Not everybody.
It was crazy watching that Ted Wheeler, who's the mayor of
exactly.
I was watching the stream. Yeah. Like when he came up and he comes up and he's like as he's walking up there, like, get the fuck out of here, Ted. Nobody wants you here. People are throwing water bottles. Yeah. Literally everyone in the crowd's like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Nobody wants you here.
That's the real
like,
shit. Yeah.
That's not what you actually end up hearing in the media, right?
Exactly.
But that's like the reality of what the protest was there. Like, that's like, if you're watching a live stream, that's all you hear. You don't hear people like, yeah, actually, let's hear this Ted Wheeler guy out, hero mayor. Like, everyone there's like, dude, get the fuck out of here. How do you like getting tear gas? Because you did that to us last week.
Right. Exactly.
Like, you know?
Exactly.
I will say, though, in the media spheres online where videos of that will go around, like, I think that there's a very key, like, neoliberal function that serves. I mean, like, I mean, like, when I saw, I mean, I didn't see people saying "go fuck yourself" or whatever to him, even though like that fucking rules. But like, I did see posts about being like, "Oh, I got tear gassed and like my eyes still hurt. We need to do something about the cops." And I saw pictures of like his mayo ass just like standing in crap. And I'm like watching it, and it's like, oh, this is the neoliberal spectacle. And like, this is fucking mind games, dude. Yeah. And like, this is fucking weird. This is really fucking.
Oh yeah,
weird.
No shit. Ted Wheeler coming out for that. It is.
Yeah.
And like, just it's like it's like old school like public shamings or something sort of like
yeah, like they did to that Minnesota mayor.
Exactly.
They did, like, normally like they called it yelled shame at him as he walked away. Yeah, that would have been tight for real. I'm waiting to see that with Elon Musk, dude. Honestly,
yo, real shit. Rip him the shreds.
Yeah, dude. Let the Bolivian pin
in the county square, put it on a live stream, and let me watch
it. Yeah, that hung and quarter shit Hobbs was talking about. Like, exactly. Let's bring that shit back.
the translating the visual the symbol that is getting tear gassed and maced by the cops into political capital.
Oh yeah.
Into a ritual. I mean, it's just so
crazy.
It's
fucking crazy. Yeah.
Like, it's fucking insane. And it's disgusting.
No, absolutely.
It's fucking pathetic and it's fucking disgusting. Yeah. And man.
That's like how also like how tear gassing is one of those. Also like getting arrested at a protest is one of those things. Like, I seen one of the most libbish one of these accounts on Twitter. Like she's fairly left, you know what I'm saying, but she still falls into identity shit. I think Killa, I think you have her on like your Blancophobia list. And everybody's like, her name's Anna, her name's Anna. Everybody's like free Anna or whatever. And like she's like she got out, and I'm glad she's or whatever. She went to jail for standing up for something, right? But like, bro, I got arrested for like jumping the turnstile before. Like, it's not some like, fantasy shit. It's like, oh, I got arrested. I'm a rebel against the state. Nah, dude. Like,
glorifying.
Sucks dick, dude. Like,
glorifying, romanticizing.
Right, real shit. It's like, the same shit niggas do when they like, like I met a lot of kids who are like never step foot in the hood, but they listen to hip hop and they like, oh, I got my gang with me, slat, or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, right. That's not cool, bro. It's not cool to be in the trenches, dude. Like, it sucks dick.
Exactly.
Like, it sucks to not know if the nigga that lives next to you is going to, like, rob you because he has to feed his kids.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. That's what all this, like, the co-opting is heinous, one, for, like, the material things they get out of it, that's in itself, but also like how light they make the real shit that goes on with people, like all the id shit of like these bougie id concerns, like diminishing like real id concerns, or like, you know, getting tear gassed or arrested as like a show when like that shit, you know, actually goes on and it wasn't by choice. They didn't get to like tweet about it. They didn't get to fucking make a photo. They didn't get any clout for it. They just had to deal with that shit. And it's like that shit is where, exactly. It gets mad disgusting because it's just like they just make it a joke, and it's like, you know,
there's people getting arrested every day that those same people will look down on for having been arrested. Shit. They're like, oh, like you got arrested for like a drug charge or for like a minor like shoplifting or robbery or like or whatever, you know. And it's like those same people are like, oh yeah, I just spent a night in jail. Like, look at me, I'm such a like social justice warrior. I'm from the front lines doing the right thing.
Dude, that's why, that picking and choosing of like authoritarianism in your favor shit trips me the fuck out. It trips me the fuck out. I don't understand why all these people will be like, I want those MAGA people, you know, to not protest the lockdowns. I want them to wear masks. Right. And you want the feds to enforce that shit. And then that's you on the left. And like, like you said, like those people like calling cops on each other. And like, and then, you know, you get mad when there's vans pulling up and snatching people up. And you're like, yo, this is fascist authoritarianism. It's like, you can't. And
the right tipped them off.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the right like
the Instagram story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with the pin drop and everything. Like, and the right does that shit too. Where they're just like, you know, they're like they want the feds to come in and lock the shit down, but they don't want it used on them if they want to, you know, be against the lockdowns. You know, I just don't understand why people think that they can pick and choose and get to use this arm in their favor, and it's never going to turn on them. It's like, yo, you're not in control. You know what I mean? You're being used. Like, you think you got a grip on this, and you think you're behind the lever. You're not. They'll do it on both of you. And then what the fuck are you talking about? Like, that shit is just mind blowing.
Circular firing line.
Right.
Sure.
Exactly.
That's real shit.
That's why I think the left needs to get more on the wave of like, I mean, I don't know how y'all feel about guns and shit, but I love them. And like, I feel like the left needs to get more on that wave because like the right is there.
Right.
And I'm not calling the cops on a Nazi, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no. I don't feel like that's... I fucking hate cops.
So the cops wouldn't care if you called them a Nazi. They'd be like, word, that's our buddy, John.
Exactly. Like, and I know y'all know that dude who recently just got killed at the protest. He had like an AK-47 or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really know, so I don't want to talk on it too much. R.I.P. to that dude.
I actually don't know what happened, but
I didn't hear about that. All I know recently of an AK-47 is that picture of Tucker Carlson.
Oh yeah,
dude, fit check.
That shit was
icy.
The drip.
He has a lot of respect for me, bro.
That is an aesthetically sound picture. Is all I'm saying.
But I bet. Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh no, damn!
AK.
Yeah, the dude had an AK or whatever. So like, even here, like it's been like a big thing where we're like trying to get people like to be like, okay, we need certain people who are like legally have guns, you know, because we don't want anybody to get arrested, of course. But like people who legally have guns and legally know how to operate with them shits, like be there to protect us or whatever.
Yep.
You know, because like we've had like we've done a march and like they tried to like run a truck into like our march or whatever and almost like hit these little kids or whatever. And it's like, okay, we need people out there to like stop this shit if it happens. But even if there's somebody out there to stop it, and when it happens, they're still going to point the finger at them. The official BLM is going to point the finger at them and be like, outside agitator. Right. Because, you know, like that's kind of what they're doing to, well, I don't know if it's official BLM people doing that to bro who just died, but that's what the machine is doing.
Right,
like,
right.
He had an AK. He had an AK, so of course they shot him, whatever, like.
Right,
well, it's like you see, like the right, they pulled up to those anti-mask protests and shit, just strapped up with guns.
Oh yeah,
no one fucked with.
Oh yeah,
and you see these protests. No one. Why is there no guns? Right. Why is there no strong left-armed coalition at these protests? The only thing I've seen was the Not Fucking Around Commission or whatever. Yeah, that was in at the NFAC in Louisville this past weekend. They showed up there. They marched there. And there was also a counter-reactionary...
the 3%ers.
3%ers, like a white nationalist movement militia that was there as well. But, like, that's the first time I've actually seen anyone other than those fake Black Panthers that Fred was hyped up about. That were actors, actually. Other than those people that weren't even really there with guns, I've not seen anyone at these places. And it's like, you wonder why the fuck people are getting beat down in the street and stuff. And it's like, things would have escalated a lot higher probably by now. But, like... There should be. Why is there not a president? It's like,
Right. And like the first days of protests, like a couple MAGA dudes show up to like try to pick fights and stuff, and like they got their shit rocked. You know what I mean? Like, because like the first couple of days of the protest here, like the hood was out there. It wasn't like college kids and shit. It was like the hood was out there. You know what I mean? So like the MAGA kids pulled up trying to start shit, and just like with anybody who's trying to start beef, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna get rocked if you're the minority there. But now, like I've seen more and more, like I'm talking about here specifically, because I don't know about other areas, but now I've seen like those people who are running for Congress and stuff try to push like a non-violent, turn the other cheek type thing.
Oh yeah,
you know, like, and I it's probably just the path of least resistance type thing though.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I feel like they have good intentions. They just don't want anything bad to happen. You know.
Yeah, the non-violence thing always gets pushed by the libs. Like, yeah, I mean, you know,
well, it serves the capitalist interests. So.
Right, pacify, right. Pacify.
And it shouldn't be just like violent. Like, you know, like I'm a proponent of like non-violence. You know, you shouldn't just beat up people for no fucking reason. But like, you can be non-violent and not peaceful. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Peaceful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and still be militant.
Well, yeah, I guess that's what a lot of the Nation of Islam shit. Bringing back to what we were first talking about is like that's kind of like
finally, thank you.
I've been waiting for the hotel.
Yeah,
this is my passion, my brother.
Yeah, for this episode, we made sure we brought on someone with like expertise, and that's COH, obviously. he's obviously.
I've been looking through the sacred text. Elijah Muhammad's message to the black man.
What do you say?
Oh man, it's quite a lot. It's really honestly quite like scattered and all over the place. They draw from like a little bit of Islam. They'll draw from some teachings of like the Old Testament and the New Testament. Like for instance, Yaqub is meant to be Jacob, like from the Bible and from the Old Testament. And it's like, okay, sure, but then at the same time, it's like they're just pulling on like, yeah, there's like this trans-dimensional beings that lived here that were the Shabazz in Mecca, and they just all had big ass heads. And actually, what they did is they had the kid, and he was like, somehow he came out brown instead of black. So he was like, wait, hold up, white people could exist. Then he was like, let's make white people, and started teaching people 60,000 apparently. No, he got 59,999 people to go with him to an island, and then over 600 years, three segments of 200 years, he breeded from black to brown to yellow to white.
Yellow to white.
So that's how you have the and you know, they made sure to work in an explanation for everybody in there, except I guess not Native Americans.
Right.
Really. Like
that sounds like the ramblings of a 6-year-old. Like.
Yeah. No. Literally, dude. And it's like, so then like they spread out. They would like each leave after 200 years or something, or they'd like shoo them away, right? And then like so then after 600 years, the white people got on their boat, went back to Mecca, and this is like they're doing really bad shit, causing trouble. Mm-hmm. So then they were exiled, and this is when it links up with like the Israelites being exiled out of the Bible. Like this is where you get the Hebrew going on. So then
all right, tread lightly.
Yeah,
I know. Nobody's listening.
Don't get me excited.
I'm not sure we're gonna get on the Apple Music now because I don't think they like our pod because I've not heard anything from them. But anyways,
triple parentheses Apple Music. Apple. Yeah.
Anyways, so this is when it links up with the Israelites.
Apple Music with 5 parentheses.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm seeing in my mind's eye.
Yeah. Sorry. So this is the Exodus here. Is when all these evil albinoids are expelled from Mecca. And so that's when they go to the Caucasus Mountains. Right? That's when they're up there, and that's like
classic mistake.
Losing all the melanin, not getting enough light.
Oh boy, can't do that.
Truly, like, you know, just like gorillas almost. You know? It's what Elijah Muhammad honestly said is that, quote, some whites tried to graft back to black, but couldn't do it and turned into gorillas, apparently.
Holy shit.
So it's interesting there how that mirrors the white nationalists.
Right.
Yeah.
It's almost it's literally exactly identical. And like on those Hotep accounts that show like pictures of white people and Neanderthals next to each other. It's like, yeah, it's the same shit. Like, anyway, so apparently Moses goes up to the Caucasus Mountains, and he was like, yo, we gotta do something about this. We gotta get out there. He tried to civilize them. It didn't work. And so he apparently blew up 300 of them with dynamite.
In what year is this?
Moses time. So who knows?
Is this with the help of like early
the big head scientists probably?
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, they're using trigonometry. So that's helping them out here.
The classic Deus Ex Machina that we're all.
Yeah. So yeah, and then he brings a couple back, and then they slowly use trigonometry 101 to conquer the rest of the world. And they're going to rule for 6,000 years, which ended in 1914. So in 1914 that just ended all of a sudden, and then after that we got Wallace Fard Muhammad, who was the teacher to the Prophet Elijah Muhammad, and from there the rest is truly history. So we have Louis Farrakhan, and then all the way up to Ice Cube, Nick Cannon, Stephen Deshaun Jackson, Charlemagne.
Correct opinion haver, Slavo T.
And now your newest faction of white adepts.
No, but it's crazy to really think about that. How you said like Nick Cannon, Charlemagne, those are like the black elite. So it's crazy to see how like the white elite and black elite both believe that they're superior.
Yo, that's such a good point. Yo, I didn't think about that because Nick Cannon's always flexing about his money. Like he's rich as fuck. Like he's upper echelon bread. Like, so that's what was so funny with him with the head wrap and just talking all this shit. Like the Yakubians were crawling on their hands and knees, and like there's all this shit I heard from Farrakhan and X and all that. Just like, wait, you like what? Like you're good. Like you're doing business deals with these people. Like what are you talking about? Like.
Well, I even saw where I was doing some deep research into all this and into Farrakhan, what his deal was, where he came from, and I'm seeing he's a couple of times done some soft support for Trump, and there's even Candace Owens, Lynn Beck praising him on TV for his support of Trump, and then you have people like Jake Tapper getting being why the fuck are you letting Farrakhan on TV? And that's when Ice Cube shut your
mouth. Also, Ice Cube, friend of the show.
Absolutely. Anytime he wants to come on, yeah.
Yeah, always an extra mic for the king. So.
Yeah, it's funny how all that shit has been. It's known as I remember a lot of we can't have these Farrakhan nationalist allies because they're mad problematic, and I guess there's misogyny and there's anti-Semitism associated with a lot of it, and so it's funny that there's always this cross woke beef where it's is it woke, is it not woke, it's just more that
is it too woke and circling back around
to being racist. Exactly.
Well, and again it's just I think that a lot of this serves a really important purpose, which is no, it's just your deranged, retarded-looking doppelganger that you can always point to.
Right.
And be well, I'm not that bad.
Right, exactly.
While being bad meaningfully in the same way. Hoteps are just Republicans a lot of the time. You know what I mean? That's the only difference. I mean, no, there's the big-headed scientists and all that stuff, but
the strong traditional values, all that shit.
Yeah, one of the funny things a lot of the funny things about Hoteps is that it is kind of just jumping off the already established launching pad of just oh no, you're just American style right wingers.
Right.
Yeah, they're all soup. We were talking about black-owned small businesses and things like that, and it's they're not
conservative.
They're not really that different.
Yeah, well, it's nice for us because we don't have to change the misogyny thing and the bigotry on our end, the anti-Semitism. We can just keep that and just adopt the brand, and it's a smooth transition.
I want to make it abundantly clear on the behalf of the entire Fed Post that our problem with Hoteps has nothing to do with them being misogynist.
Absolutely not. Absolutely. Oh yeah, make that clear. Yeah.
Simply
in fact, we think that's cool.
That was the selling point.
Yeah, no,
I was. That's why I'm actually identifying as a white Hotep still.
Well, if you really read into some of those maxims of Ptah from back in the day, back in Egypt, you'd see that the misogynism has a really material base in those teachings.
Oh, absolutely.
And he teaches a man to take care of his family. I mean, truly, the man is, he teaches a young man to be a true man.
Absolutely. And wait, what was the guy's name you just said?
Ptah Hotep.
Yeah, and
the namesake.
As we all know, that guy, it was actually the original materialist. They're reading him over Marx now.
Yeah, it was like him and then Hegel, and then it was Marx.
Yeah, no, exactly. And as we know, Hegel was a famous queer POC.
Right. Speak on it.
Of course. Yo, you know what's crazy? What I'm getting really annoyed of is like X's in every fucking like fucking. I remember when ASAP Mob first came out.
Yeah.
Like ASAP Rocky was put in an X in his name. Like that shit used to be like simply aesthetic, and like now it still is simply aesthetic, but it's like been like moved into like no, this to include everybody. Like I'm sure y'all. There was a march in New York today, like the Black Women's March. It was really cool because there was like thousands of people out there marching ever. But like the name was like Black Women's March with the X and woman.
Oh
like,
my god,
what is the reason?
Oh, dude, are you for real? Are you for real though?
Yeah,
like
100%.
X on the E?
Yeah, that's not even. Have you not seen that before?
No, dude. I thought we made that shit up.
March.
No.
I need to log the fuck off. I can't take this shit. I just learned about folks. Like I didn't know that women was. I thought that was us like adopting it. I didn't know that was canon. I didn't know that was in the lore. God damn.
Yeah, yo, it's crazy, and it's crazy because like, damn, I forgot what I was gonna say. But like, nah, like I would think like of course, like tread lightly because I am not trans. People are gonna react the way. I thought, like,
yeah, be careful because we have a lot of positive cred in that community. I don't want to ruin my really good record. I don't want to blow a 10-point lead.
Yeah, it has to answer picture just like bitching you out in the DMs.
No, but like, I would think, right, of referring to like a trans woman as like woman with a regular spelling is like confirming their gender identity, right? So like making a whole separate like thing, like, oh well, they're not included in regular women. What do you mean regular? They're trans, like they're regular, right? Like,
right.
You told me like yesterday.
Right. No, it's all inconsistent. It's like I think we talked about this before. Like Natalie ContraPoints being like, I actually don't like when people bring up their pronouns because it makes me feel weird. And like, you know, in some places,
and then people came up and chopped her fucking head off.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, you have passing privilege and all this shit, and like she deactivated for mad long. It's like,
yeah,
there's no end to this shit. She got canceled. Think about that. She got canceled. So like, you know, there's no end to this shit. It's just the fucking turtles all the way down.
No, and it's crazy because I think like a lot of the like shit that stuff does. Well, of course, it hurts us in the long end because like one instance, like we had people saying like, and hey, I don't have like a real position on this, right? But like they say misgendering someone is like literal violence, right? And like, okay, whatever. Like, but then you're gonna tell people like seeing riots and calling it violence. You're gonna tell them that's not real violence. Like, bro, like you just told someone that words was literal violence, but now niggas is burning down a building and you're saying that's not violent. Like, burning down a building, like, to me, burning down a building is not by getting hurt, right? But like, I'm not out here saying that words are literal violence. You know what I mean? Like, there's people they're saying like, yo, if you make a joke like, oh, that was violent.
Right.
So what happens when we have to actually get violent?
Yeah, exactly. That's the flattening.
People are gonna start yelling slurs at each other.
No, this is like fucking humanities shit, dude.
Right.
Like this is like David Lynch talking film theory or like Marshall McLuhan talking about violence and language. Like shut the fuck up. Like, how did these people take over?
Weirdo shit. Weirdo fucking academic shit. Weirdo ivory tower bullshit. Like
it sucks, dude. It sucks. And like it's like a normie point to say like, oh, you know, the future, the nerds won, you know. But like this is a fucking example of that, dude. Like
real shit.
No, yeah.
The nerds are no fucking threat to capital. That's why it's so easy.
Right.
What are they threatening? They're just reinforcing the same shit.
And the flattening of like I always talk about like words aren't so meaningful. Like the overemphasis on words is kind of dumb because it's already so subjective. Yeah, it's already so subjective. It's pointless, whatever. But like in terms of the value of language and meaning of words, like that shit is flattening. That's what I was talking about with the other shit. Is like the flattening of affect. Like if the words become violence and you know misgendering someone is genocide, or if you make eye contact with a woman, you're raping her. Like if all these things get flattened to where there's like,
is that a thing?
I don't know. I'm sure there's a Vice article on it.
I think that's probably hyperbole. Yeah.
But never fucking tell anymore.
Right.
There's probably some article there.
Something like that.
Yeah. I'm sure there's something like that.
An ocular assault.
Ocular pat down.
Yeah.
But
yeah, all this shit is just like, you know, I think that's what social media does, right? Because like if you like something, it's, you know, you have to do the binary. If you like something, you have to fave it. If you don't like it, you racial it. Or Reddit, you're upvoting, downvoting. Like you're stuck with two affects for everything. So everything gets flattened down. You know what I mean? However severe it is, it all just gets mushed together. And I think a lot of this psyop shit and like the ivory tower shit we're talking about is to take meaning out of these words so that they you become, the one who cried wolf for when it actually does happen, or when something serious does happen. No one will take you serious because, it's the erasing of grievances. If anybody talks about rape or whatever, there's a lot of dudes who would just be like, oh yeah, girls say that for anything. That shit doesn't mean anything. And then it's like, I get that. I totally get that. But then now it's not, they think of it as like empowering women, but really it's like hurting women. It's actually like hurting the strength of what that is and what that crime really is. So, it has the opposite effect. I think it's mad deliberate. I think it's super deliberate.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where people, you're talking about like the kind of like decaying of like shared images or meanings and things like that.
Right.
That's where that is like what the right is talking about when they talk about like, postmodernism, right?
Exactly.
And like it's stupid. That's stupid cuck shit, because like again, like we've said, like postmodernism isn't like bad at all, but but then the left makes the exact same point in not grasping postmodernism in like a meaningful way, by like immediately like not appreciating the fact that like, no, there isn't that fixed meaning, and like you're not operating under all of the implications of that outside of just like within your reach of things that behoove your agenda.
Right.
But yeah, and I mean, it kind of just makes me think of like again, like I just think of this fucking humanity shit. Like you're just taking like an art class or something like that, and people are just talking about like, well, actually, like in film there is, this is a realm of like objective meanings within the language of cinema and things like that, and like you can parse out what the meaning of something in a much more objective way in this realm, and like we're like too caught up in the language of like symbolic images and everything.
Yeah, abstractions.
Yeah, and it's like when like the college bro says like, oh, I don't believe women when they have rape accusations because they're always lying. Like, no, like he's not correct, but there is a not irrelevant piece of truth in that statement.
There's a reason why he's saying that.
Exactly.
And that's just like how can you even go through the world and not look at just human beings that way, generally?
I mean, obviously.
Like, no, there's just like a huge ton of mess around this, but there's like some undeniable truth in it at the center of it.
Right.
And like the world is you just feeling around blindly trying to get those little disparate pieces of truth and maybe hopefully piece them together, but like you don't have the key of like knowing what is and isn't true. And like, sorry. Now I'm
it's a blind man with the elephant thing that we were talking about. It's like,
exactly,
especially on the social things, like you only got your piece of the world. You've only had your experiences, your anecdotes. Like, keep it there. No, be humble enough to know, like, yo, that's what you saw. That's true for you. Like, speaking your truth or whatever the fuck that means. Like, keep it there. Like, no, it's just you, and you can't apply that shit to everybody else. But that's what people do, and that it's just funny when those things go on and they reify like language this way into abstraction, and they try to make things concrete. That if you're really postmodern, you're supposed to know that they don't mean shit. Like, but they try to make it to whatever they want it to mean. Because it's just self-serving shit.
They're like the worst postmodernists ever.
Exactly. Yeah, they're not really doing it. They just become a straw man. They literally embody the straw man that the right makes them. And it's just the dumbest. And you say these things and you're like, yo, well, I don't know if that's really rape or whatever. Like, and they'll be like, oh, well, this means you're erasing like people's experiences and like you don't care about it, you're diminishing it. It's like, no, I think you are. You're fucking diminishing it because, like, you're making light of this shit. It's not this trivial, petty shit that you're dealing with. It's real shit. You know what I mean?
All this just eliminates room for nuance and thought and conversation at all. Like, they just want it to be just one way or the other.
Yeah,
it's just like not how life fucking works.
Yeah, I hate. Yeah, that's really what it is, and it sucks that whenever I say something like that, it sounds like what the right wingers say. But like, yeah, there really is nuance. There is intention. You have to factor that shit in. You charge someone first-degree murder different than third-degree. If they sat premeditating that shit for like months, you treat it differently than if it was an accident. Like that's just that's just how it works legally, and for good reason. You know what I mean? Of course we treat shit differently. So it's like, that shit is just like so many people I've talked to, Radlibs, were just like, no, intention doesn't matter. Like If you hit me, the end result is the same. Like that's all that matters. What I experience is like, you don't believe that, and then I'll catch them, having the opposite view a second later about something else. So it's all bullshit.
Real shit. Well, guys, I actually gotta go. I had one question. What did the white about?
Hey, you're cutting out right now, man. Hold on. What were you saying?
You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I actually gotta go, but I do have one last question for the white hoteps. Right?
Oh yeah.
So was Jesus a Yaqub or was he a black king?
See, that's tricky.
I will say, I'm going to, I'm a passionate one. I lead from the heart, but I'm not maybe quite as learned on some of our beliefs as brother COH over here.
Yeah, you're a little bit more reactionary with it. I'd say that saying that. I mean, real like NOI hoteps don't really like acknowledge Jesus as being a part of the story for real. So, to say he's either, you could say that he was black, sure, or you could say he wasn't. I'd say that's kind of doing a revisionism the whole hotep thing. Yeah.
Well, and I would say that goes against the hotep spirit, which is we don't want to take what the white man,
right. He's tainted goods.
My friends and family, we don't want to take what they had.
Oh yeah.
We want our own thing. We truly was Kang.
Yeah, no sloppy seconds. No sloppy seconds on that.
No, fuck that. The white man already wrecked those walls. And I don't want anything to do with it.
Nice.
No, but yo, thank y'all for having me on. Real shit. Like anytime y'all like need a guest and I'm free, fucking let me know. Y'all are cool as fuck.
Much appreciated, man. Much appreciated.
Hell yeah.
It was great to have you, man.
Appreciate that, guys. Well, have a good night.
All right, you too, man.
Bye.
All right.
That was Chef. He can be found on Twitter at @It'sChefCJB.
All right, go in peace, brothers.
Peace, brother.
Goodbye, my king.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.